Welcome to
Tamarindo Podcast.
Hosted by me, Brenda Gonzalez, a fitness coach, political nerd, and nonprofit capacity builder.
And me, Delsy Sandoval, a Guatemalan-American licensed therapist and passionate creativity advocate. Together, we're here to uplift our community through powerful conversations with changemakers, creatives, and healers.
Each week on the pod, we talk politics, culture, and personal development. Listeners call Tamarindo the Advocacy and Self-Love Podcast. Vámonos! Let's start the show!
Hello, Tamarindo listeners.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Brenda. ¿Cómo estás?
I'm good. It's freaking summer. Like, we were all complaining about it being gloomy, and now it's summer, and I'm kind of like, take me back to the gloom.
Really? You know, it's interesting. I actually am so energized by it. I feel so good knowing that there's a full day of sun outside.
Yeah, it is lovely. But I want a pool.
Oh my God, can I tell you what a life-changing experience it is to have a pool?
Oh my gosh.
I don't have a pool, but the people in my life have pools, and it is like being a child again.
It's the best.
Instantly.
It's the best. I grew up with a pool, but my parents are 30 miles away, so not as
too
accessible.
Far. Too far for a pool.
Too far.
Yeah. So, you know, today's a really interesting day for our conversation because we are going to be talking to Jasmin Hernandez, who is the founder of Gallery Gurlz. And if people know what Gallery Gurlz is, it is essentially this platform that highlights POC and Afro-Latina and Black artists in commercial art spaces, essentially, like in all art spaces.
We have access to those spaces.
Making sure you have access to those spaces and you're fairly represented there. And so I'm excited to talk about it. But before we talk about that, Brenda, ¿qué pasa? Let's talk a little bit about you. And I'd love to hear a little bit about what you prefer and don't prefer and what your likes and yes, this or that. And so this is going to be one of our new segments and I'd love to try it out if you're okay.
Perfect. And I know this is not a surprise because I've also prepared some this or that for you. So.
Okay. So here we go. This or that.
Okay. And folks, if you're hearing a little bit of crinkling, is because we're actually together in the flesh and not on Zoom. So there might be some seats adjusting.
Paper. We're getting cozy.
Yeah.
Okay. Full spa day alone or an amazing night out with your girlfriends?
Oh, I think an amazing night out with my girlfriends. I love dancing with my friends. I feel so it's like electrifying when I'm fueled up by the energy of my girlfriends. And though I do absolutely love the idea of going to a spa alone because that is also a different sort of, it fills your cup in a different way. Yeah. But if I had to think about what I like better, the feeling I get after a great night of dancing with my girlfriends is just like nothing tops that.
What is your role? Like when you go out with your girlfriends, who are you out in? Are you the hype person? Like what's your role?
You know, that has evolved, but like I would say for the last 15 years or so, the type of place that I go dancing is probably not what folks might have in mind. So earlier in my early 20s, it was like go to the club and all my girlfriends and I dance in a circle with each other and like fend off creepy dudes. The type of places that I go to and have gone to for the last 10, 15 years is great electronic music, house music, drum and bass. And those spaces are not about somebody grinding on your butt or dancing in a circle with your girlfriends. You're sort of dancing towards the DJ and appreciating the music. Okay. So there's no need for the rallier necessarily in those instances. But when I go out to different kinds of music, like a time that comes to mind is going out to Cumbiaton and went out with our mutual friend, Danny, and it was super fun. And there we were just like feeding off each other's energy and just dancing with the whole crowd. And it felt like twin spirits going out there. So I don't know if I occupy a specific role, but I just have fun and feed off of everybody's energy.
Yeah, I see that with you. And I've been lucky enough to be in spaces with you where there is live music and you always like start jamming, like rocking out, getting really into it.
I dance like no one's looking, which means is a kind way to say I have no rhythm.
No. Okay.
You have another one?
Otro. A ver, okay. If you had to choose between having to sing in public or being challenged to a one-on-one dance-off, which one do you choose?
Okay, both are really hard, but chances are that if it's just like a random person, I feel like more random people can dance better than me, but maybe I can sing a couple songs better than the average person. I like to think so. So maybe a sing-off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
I think so.
my God, that's it. It is on. We need to go to karaoke. I
love
am dying.
karaoke.
So, do you have a karaoke song?
Yes, it is Janis Joplin, Me and Bobby McGee. I love it. It's my favorite. It's the one that I rock out. I don't know if there's any others that I kill as much as that one. Yeah, that's the one.
I could so see that for you.
What's yours? What's your karaoke
Oh my God. Okay,
song?
so believe it or not, I really love to do Entre Nos, Vicente Fernandez.
Oh, nice.
I love that song so much. And it is obviously, I can't sing like Vicente Fernandez. And I think that's the whole point of karaoke, is that it's ridiculous and it's fun. And it's almost, to me, aggravating when somebody's too good, because then it turns into like a concert and not really like a fun environment. So I challenge myself by doing a very difficult song and making it like a big spectacle, you know?
Yes,
So,
yes. Here in Los Angeles, it's actually really terrible to go to karaoke generally because there's so many aspiring actors and performers, and that tends to be the case of people just like Celine Dion up there and like, yeah, Whitney Houston, you know, these impossible songs. So that's not that fun. So if you are an amateur singer and you want to go to karaoke with us and you're local to LA, get in touch with us because we will have a night where it's amateurs only. You cannot be good, okay?
it can't be good. Terrible Singer Anonymous. Terrible Singers Anonymous. Can I tell you that when I was in Japan, they have this thing that they do where they call strangers out to do duets.
Ooh.
And somebody called me out to do a duet. And because I was a native English speaker, they chose a song for me. And they chose Celine Dion.
Oh
My Heart Will Go On.
gosh.
Only the hardest song of all time to sing.
That's pretty hard.
And I didn't know, I didn't want to say no, so I went for it. And it was so ridiculously fun. It's one of my favorite memories of me trying to be Celine Dion in Japan.
I love
And
it.
they loved
That's
it.
so great.
Okay, uno último.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. I have two more, but I'm going to... Okay. One entire week without the internet,
Okay.
or an entire week without access to your vehicle.
Oh, easy. I often don't have my vehicle, so that's easy. I love the internet. I would love to have it at all times. I find it. I mean, there's good and bad with the internet, but in terms of like, I feel like it's empowering for women, the internet, because of Google Maps, because of Uber, because of getting around, because you're able to call and there's in a case of an emergency. I think all of those things have been really helpful to help women feel safer in this world. Of course, the world is still garbage to women, but if you think about how you would do without those things, like walking around, not knowing where you are, not being able to call someone for help, not being able to get picked up if you're out somewhere that's kind of scary. All those things are scary, right? They're way
Totally.
scarier. So being without a car, no problem. I like to take Uber, or like to take Lyft. Like that's no problem at all. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I have so many memories of like, what did we do before the internet? Like running into businesses for help, or
Yeah, like, hey, what's this? Or looking for landmarks when someone gives you directions.
Exactly. Yeah. So, okay, I agree with you.
Yes. Okay. So I've got some for you. So 3 for you.
Okay.
So first question is Knott's Berry Farm or Six Flags, this or that?
Oh man, I'm gonna go with Six Flags.
Yes.
Six Flags has a special place in my heart because it was closer. So we had season passes when we were in high school and we would go. I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm terrified of rides. But
Scary.
I always have to like, save face. So I was always like going there all the time and having the funnel cake and getting on Batman and Riddler's Revenge. And it's more like nostalgic for me, I think. So even now when I go, it's like nostalgic. I don't really want to get on the ride.
Okay. Six Flags, scary rides, but also you get a workout because the hills at Six Flags here in Southern California are no joke.
Yeah. It's
it's
also like
really
some of the
bad.
only times in my life I saw ice because it
wait,
gets pretty
really?
cold up
Oh,
there.
wow,
Yeah.
I've never been there where it's that cold.
Yeah. And I was like, are these rides going to stop when it's icy? But,
my God.
Listen, the show must go on. So you risk your life further.
Yeah. All right. It's been a while since I've been to Six Flags, so I have to go visit. All right. Okay. Here's the next category. I know both you and I love indie films. We love really interesting shows. But if you had to pick between a strong female lead versus a female director without a strong female lead, which one would you pick?
Oh my God, that's like a fantastic question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go with strong female director.
Yes.
And the reason is because, well, one is just like we need to support films that are directed by women so that there can be more films directed by women. And we have had a few great films that have female leads. I would really love to support. But also, when you think about how important directing is to the way that you experience cinema, different than the way you would experience a written story, then I want it to have some truth and some honesty about the way maybe a woman would react in the moment, or a close up on some detail that feels true to the female experience. I would really prefer that. And so I'm going to go with that answer.
I love that. Yeah. Yes. Okay, this next one is, I feel like you're uniquely able to answer this, and it ties into who we have as a guest today. So this or that, museums in New York, museums in LA.
Oh my God, these are so good. You know what? If the answer is if the question is specific to museums, I'm going to say New York.
Okay.
But if the answer is more to like a general art scene, like if the question is more about general art scene, I would pick LA. And yeah, so I feel like the art scene in LA lives a lot outside of museums. There's a lot going on with like public art, all kinds of performance art happening across spaces. You know, you can go outside and see an entire edifice from head to toe, like painted in graffiti and street art. And there's a lot in your built environment and the world around you, the people around you, that's artistic and expressive. In New York, a lot of it is like really institutional based. You know, it's a lot of it lives in these museums. Sure, there's other options, but a lot of what you're aware of happens in museums. And because there's a long history, some of these museums are like unbelievable. Some of the things that they have, some questionable things that you're like, all right, can we return this to Egypt now, right?
Yes.
But but I do think there are some really cool, well curated, fascinating things going on in New York museums.
I love that answer because it also talks about how important it is to make museums more accessible and the concept of public art. So how does that tie into our guest today?
So let's talk about that. That's a really good tie-in because we have Jasmin Hernandez. She is a powerhouse. She spotlighted all kinds of POC artists through the founding of Gallery Gurlz. But one thing I want to say about my research for this interview and just my time with Jasmin is that I got to spend time reading her book. And she has this incredible book that is called We Are Here, Visionaries of Color Transforming the Art World. And every page is a different artist, and you get to be kind of invited into their studio space and see all of the things that they do, and it's a little mini interview. I was completely blown away by this book. It's kind of my dream book.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't wait to hear this interview. So
yeah,
let's
me too.
hear from it now.
Here we go.
Let's hear about it now.
It's with pleasure that I welcome Jasmin Hernandez to Tamarindo. Hey, Jasmin, how you doing?
I'm great. So great to be here, Delsy. Thank you.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time. I'd like to start off, Jasmin, because I'm so interested. How did art and culture really come into your world? Tell me about that. And what role do you think it's played in shaping your identity?
Absolutely. Culture is a big part of my world. It's been there since I was very young. I'm a New York, born and bred Dominican New York kid, first generation, raised in a Black Dominican immigrant household with a Black Dominican single mom. So I was a kid born in the early 80s in New York City, which New York City was a bit treacherous because of the crack epidemic. So, you know, us living in like Black and brown neighborhoods, like we were inside, like I was kept safely inside. And so I turned to like MTV and music videos and fashion magazines. And that was like portals into worlds that I wanted to be a part of in the future as a teenager, as an adult somehow. Didn't know how, didn't have the tools, but was going to find a way somehow, some way. But culture has always been very pivotal for me. And so even though I feel that New York City takes so much away from you, like financially and energy wise, and it's like this huge consuming colossus that just like eats away at you, I also feel that the city gave me so much, and I made sure that it gave me something back. So like when I've discovered that I could go to museums on the free day or go to the Met and just pay a penny to see all this amazing art, I made sure that the city gave me something back as much as it takes away from you.
Oh man, I really resonate with what you're saying. Just growing up during a similar time period in a similar circumstance. I love New York City. I'd like to know a little bit about your experience with those first cultural institutions, because much like me, I imagine that you experienced a lack of representation. When did you start to notice that this lack of representation existed in the arts and in the curriculum?
I would really say during my time at Parsons, I did a 4-year degree. It was a BBA degree in design management, and my course load was art history and fashion history. And it was all dead white people. It was like dead white male artists. So, Van Gogh, Warhol, etc., impressionists, old masters, and then contemporary, I mean, modern, not contemporary, not yet, but it was always just like dead white men and a few dead white women. I think the first class that I took, where it's like I saw women artists and women artists who were like women of color, was like it was a class about surrealism, and like Yaya Kusama and Frida Kahlo were like heavily like referenced in that class. So, and then it was taught by like a feminist who was also a Freemason, and um I remember that was like the first time that was like, okay, wow, like it's an art history class, it's a liberal class, and I'm not learning about dead white men. No Black women artists and no Black artists were taught in that class or any other class my 4 years there, but Frida and like Yaya Kusama, were taught, and like that was incredible. And along the way, I, I of course, as much as I love them, I also did learn other things about them that like I just kind of view them differently now. But I would really say that it was my course load at Parsons. Just that was when I was beginning to see that, like, the Jacob Lawrences and the Lorna Simpsons and the Emma Amos's, like those very iconic Black American artists, like were not being taught in class.
How did
Or
that
other or Black Latin American artists as well. Maria Magdalena Campos or Belkis Sayong and all these other like Black Latin American women artists as well.
and how did that realization kind of lead to the framework for Gallery Girls? Tell us a little bit about that.
Definitely. By the time I started Gallery Gurlz in 2012, I had spent a decade working in fashion. So like I went to Parsons, I graduated, and then I spent a decade working in fashion. So I was a photo editor at different magazines, at the New York Times Magazine, New York Magazine, and I was also a fashion show producer. So all of that was amazing. But by the time 2012 rolled around, I had a bit of like fashion fatigue and like fashion career exhaustion. And I wanted to pivot to art because I was already going to openings in Chelsea on Thursday nights where, it's free and it's like free wine and like it's super fun and social and you're meeting all these incredible people. So I wanted to kind of go deeper into the art world beyond just being like a voyeur and a visitor. I wanted to like start writing or just be more involved behind the scenes or maybe work at a gallery or maybe working at a museum. So by the time I started Gallery Ghost in 2012, it was myself and another Afro-Caribbean woman. She's Jamaican. Her name was Anne Samuel, super dope. And we met at a Sotheby's class. She was like 40 something. I was in my early 30s. And we were both craving a change and like craving a new direction in the art world. The art world was beginning to diversify around this time. Like there was a lot of talk about Black artists and artists of color and representation. So, what we were seeing on TV, like with the Obama effect, where there was more representation on TV because you're seeing, Atlanta and Insecure and, How to Get Away with Murder and Scandal. Those things were also happening in the art world as well. And like a lot of Black artists were finally like had a seat at the table and were just like, much more vocal about representation. So I entered the art world around that time. And then so me and my friend that I met at Sotheby's through a continuing ed class, because we both wanted to pivot into the art world. We thought that education was like the first way to pivot in. And so we didn't do a master's, but we met in this continuing ed course. And then we started our website. We dove deep first. Dove like head first into the art world by just going to every opening, going to every museum opening, going to every art fair, and just being hyper visible. And then it was like that synergy between like Instagram beginning to pop around 2011, 2012, and then like what was happening in the art world and kind of synchronizing those energies.
For folks that are not familiar with Gallery Girls, what was that initial vision and how have you seen it evolve?
Absolutely. When we started the site, we wanted to just write about like Black. We wanted to write about. We wanted. I'm sorry. We wanted to. I'm sorry. Can I say that again?
Yeah, go ahead.
It was like a little tongue twister. I want to start that over.
Go ahead.
So when we started the website in 2012, it was mostly just, sorry, let me start that over. I'm going to start that again.
Yeah, I was
Um,
asking you about what can people expect, like people who don't know Gallery Gurlz. What was
oh,
the initial
certainly.
vision?
Yeah. So when we started the website in 2012, it was simply just like exhibitions and like news in the art world with like Black and artists of color, and women. It was kind of general. It was kind of general. And both of us started it, but she had a full-time job and she had a full-time job in law and like at a corporate law firm. And I'm the one that was like a freelancer that I was going to like every studio visit in Bushwick and like doing studio visits with my iPhone, 7 or something, and just like running all over the city. Like I was the one that was kind of more feet on the ground and like pounding the pavement and like engaging with artists. So we started it together in 2012, but by 2014 I fully took over the site, and that's when the shift and like the vision became more linear and more definitive. And that's when it was like, okay, just Black and POC artists, not because in the beginning white women were also included. It was like Black artists, artists of color, women as well. It was kind of more general, just as long as you weren't like a white man. It was like every other group. And then by the time I kind of stepped in more and took more ownership, it was just Black and POC artists with a focus on Black women. So Black women artists and like Black women curators and independent producers, etc. So when you go to the website now, it's super streamlined. It's Black and POC change makers and contemporary art. You're going to see artist interviews. You're going to see exhibition reviews. You're going to see the art world is also very stylish. So there's a section on like fashion exhibits in the art world, but like through a Black lens or a Black perspective. So the writing is, I do all of the writing. I'm the editor in chief. I'm one of the co-founders and now just the founder. The writing is very organic. You're not going to find like overly academic writing where you can't like, it's like super cerebral. The writing is like, the tone of the writing is universal. It's open. It's accessible. Anyone at any level can just jump in. They're super fun. Sometimes there's profanity. It's just whatever I felt. Whatever I felt in my gut is what I spit out onto the page. So it's art exhibitions, it's artist interviews, and it's studio visits.
Yeah, and you know what's really interesting and beautiful about the work that you're doing and looking at your writing and some of the things that have been published, it's that you can really feel your personal connection to the art, and you can see how you're using it as a means for not just expression but also advocacy. Can you speak a little bit to that writing style?
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely say that I'm self-taught. I absolutely don't have an MFA in creative writing. It has just been being a native New Yorker, well, a born and bred New Yorker who has been soaking up culture for multiple decades. And, my mind is just a repository of all the art that I've seen. I don't have, like a master's in art history or like an MFA in creative writing, but for decades of soaking up so much culture and like self-educating myself on contemporary art and then writing about it very organically and very universally. I feel like that's a huge asset to Gallery Gurlz. But yeah, I don't like inaccessible writing. I don't like writing like I feel like if I'm at a ivory tower or having an elitist tone. I wasn't raised that way. I don't come from that world. For a long time, I was like the only, when I would walk into a gallery. I mean, now it's very common to go into a gallery in Chelsea and see a Black gallerina or a Black person or a person of color behind like the gallery desk. But for a long time, it was like young, thin white women that were the gallerinas at these very kind of inaccessible white box spaces in Chelsea. You would walk in, and mind you, many of them are like right across the street from the projects. The Elliott Chelsea projects in New York City, like on like 10th Avenue in the 20s, in West Chelsea. But for a long time, it was like that. You would barely ever see a Black person behind the desk. You never saw a Black gallery director. You never saw like a Black person in a leadership or executive position, at a gallery. And now, thankfully those things have changed.
Yeah, I really love that you said that you've been soaking up culture forever in New York City. I'd like to use that as kind of an analogy for what you've done here with your book. You have published a book called We Are Here, Visionaries of Color Transforming the Art World. Let's talk about that. What is it that you're bringing to the world, a little piece of New York City that you're kind of sharing with everyone?
I love that question. We Are Here is very much Gallery Gurlz in print. So it's like the ethos and the tone and like the vibe of Gallery Gurlz, like as a website, you're getting in print. You know, you're getting it in a tangible form where you can pick up this book, turn the pages, and come back to it whenever you want. The book came out in 2021, you know, right in the middle of lockdown and the pandemic. So many like museums and galleries and art spaces were closed. So I kind of saw it as like 50 studio visits that you kind of could access like during the pandemic or just whenever you had free time and come back to it, you know, maybe take a Sunday afternoon and like go through the whole book or just go through 2 or 3 studio visits. They're actually more like interviews. They're interviews with like exclusive images, exclusive portraiture, but you know, go through like all day, you know, go through them, you know, at once, all at once, or just at your leisure. But yeah, the tone of the book is reflects the tone of the website. It's interviews and exclusive portraiture with 50 change makers, Black and POC change makers in the art world. It's going to be intergenerational. It's folks of all ages. The most of them are going to be under 40. They're all going to be like my age, like elder millennials that were under 40 at that time. You know, I was important for me to like highlight them, you know, in their prime, but it is a mix of folks. It's not just photographers, it's not just painters, it's like video artists, it's performance artists, it's installation artists, it's illustrators, it's graffiti artists. I didn't want to just stick to like Black and brown superstar artists that have blown up in the last 10 years and have a lot of visibility. I also wanted a lot of artists that like didn't have representation yet, didn't have a gallery yet. Maybe they work in nightlife. And you know, for example, someone like Untitled Queen, who's Puerto Rican and Filipino, Filipina, she's a performance artist. She's a drag artist. Her name is Untitled Queen. She's super legendary. So folks like that are in the book as well. It's not just like, you know, these very kind of celebrated, you know, fine artists from like the blue chip art world. I wanted it to include you know, folks from like different intersections within the art world. I also wanted to include curators and not just artists, because curators help artists get their art out into the world. They're art makers as well. They're producers of culture as well. So it's a different mix of folks. And a lot of them are my friends that I met through social media about a decade ago. And we've been all kind of like glowing up together. And this book is kind of like a graduation for all of us. We've all been grinding either online or in person. And, you know, maybe we've been on panels together, because as the art world was shifting and becoming more diverse, a lot of the people in the book were like key players in like the New York art world as well and beyond. So it's a celebration of all of us. And I was noticing a shift, and it was like the folks in the book were making the shift, and I just felt that they had to be celebrated. So some are like kind of unknown, some are like already established, some are like super legendary. So it's a really beautiful, robust mix of folks.
Yeah, I love that you say celebrate, because when I was reading through some of the articles that you've written, it really does feel like a celebration of the achievements of Black and Brown women across various fields, including film, including fashion. What is it that motivates you to keep going and spotlighting these individuals?
I think it's important to tell our stories. I think that people from the community should be telling our stories, not other people that do it for profit or for exploitation or for appropriation. Because I feel confident in my voice, because I've been practicing with my voice on Gallery Gurlz for so long, writing the book was like another logical kind of like seamless step in my writing career. And so that voice continues where I just write, you know, I just write very organically, very passionately, very thoughtfully. I made sure that the questions I was asking were very timeless. You know, nothing, I didn't want the questions to feel dated, like, oh, well, tell me about your show in 2015. And, you know, but this book has come out in 2021 and will continue to sell. And I wanted to focus on very foundational things like, you know, what's your favorite color? When did art first enter your life? What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? You know, how has the internet and social media been pivotal to your career? And how do you feel about, representation in the art world today? So I just wanted to keep the questions grounded, organic, and kind of fun, kind of foundational. But yeah, I'm super proud of it. The book has been out for 3 years. It came out in 2021. It continues it has a life of its own. So I constantly see it posted online. People tag me. The book is living its life. It's growing its legs. It's living its life on its own. And that's beautiful to see. And, when it hits the 20-year mark or the 30-year mark, we'll see what where it stands in the culture.
Yeah, almost like an archive of what was going on at that time. Really, like we are here, we are seen.
Really.
I'm curious what your advice would be, or what you would say to folks who are listening to this, maybe people who don't have formal art training, who want to be cultural workers, want to be cultural producers, maybe art is inherent to them. How do you get started if you're not formally trained?
I think that's a great question, because I have similar circumstances. I mean, I did go to Parsons, which is an art school, and I, studied art and fashion. So, and plus I did it in New York. So I understand that was like, it is a privilege in a sense. So I'm aware of that. But I just feel I took advantage of the internet and of social media, and, we still have those tools today. So whether it's TikTok or just like other newer apps, I would just say find your community online. Follow the people that inspire you. Follow the people, like the world that you want to be a part of. Who are the people shaping that world, and follow them and be in community with them. The book, first and foremost, is a celebration of community, because all those people were people that I had already interviewed on Gallery Gurlz, and then were in the book as well. And I already knew and had been seeing their art for years, and maybe we'd been on panels together speaking about representation in the art world, and Black women in the art world. So it's a very much a community minded, community centric experience. So I would say just find your folks online. Find your folks, and I would say find them online first, and just go from there.
Jasmin, thank you so much for spending time with us here at Tamarindo. We really appreciate it. It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much.
And we're back. I hope that you enjoyed that interview as much as I did, and that it inspires you to get out there and look at some art.
Oh, always. I'm always inspired to look at art when I spend time with you.
Yay! Bueno, vamos a hablar over our matracas, our basuras, our inspiración. Let's start with matracas.
Okay. Well, my matraca goes to Tada Coffee off the LA River. This has been such a beautiful space. I can't wait to show it to you, Delsy. I know we're recording right before we're about to head out there for our show with Irene Diaz, but you're going to be inspired by this beautiful space. So it's this pop-up coffee shop off the LA River. And the only way to get there is to walk from the LA River. So you're already treated to like this beautiful scenic walk. And then the folks behind this are always hosting amazing community events. So you can get yoga every Sunday for free at 10:30. Every once in a while, I'll teach a workout class there. The next one will be July 13th. And they were so happy to host for this event and took no monetary contribution. They're sponsoring in a way by just offering their beautiful space for this. So Tada Coffee gets my matraca today.
Yes, I love that. I love spaces that are looking to expand their reach and their mission by having community events. Really cool. Yeah, really awesome.
Can't wait to show it to you.
Speaking of spaces like that, of walkable, beautiful outdoor spaces, my matraca is similar. Okay. It goes to urban planners in Los Angeles who are prioritizing more walkable cities filled with parks. Because I'm looking at a lot of these plans. Every now and then I'll try to look online to see what the blueprints are for future resilience of neighborhoods. There's a lot of plans for parks, and we need it here. Coming from living in a city that had a park or 3 parks per block, coming to LA, I walk down the street. It's very difficult to find green spaces here. And so
more spread out.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that prospect. And, shout out to the work that all of these urban planners are doing to kind of transform the future of our lives really here.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to my friend Milena, who literally is a city planner in Los Angeles. Every once in a while, she'll give us a little clue on what they're working on. And yeah, so amazing to know them and to see their incredible work and to appreciate it. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Fully appreciate it.
Spaces. Love, love, love.
All right. ¿Y tu basura?
Okay, my basura, this is so silly, but my basura goes to, right now, friends, we are recording and we're enjoying beautiful natural wine. We like natural wine. And my basura goes to cocktails that are made with like wine-based liquor, because it's, first of all, it's not natural wine, and you're not getting the real tequila and the real vodka. And I mention this because Jeff and I took our moms to Glen Ivy, which is a beautiful, amazing place to go to if you want a relaxing day with your moms. And the only kind of drinks that they had were wine-based cocktails, as well as wine and beer. And we had like the craziest hangover. Because it was like so sweet, and like we were just wiped out afterwards. So that goes, my basura goes to wine instead of liquor for your cocktails.
I like that. And I can also say that I'm trying to stay away from anything that's going to make me feel terrible.
Yeah.
I hear you.
It gets harder.
It gets harder. Well, my basura is really just about increased crime in a lot of the neighborhoods across the U.S., but specifically the neighborhoods in Los Angeles. I have to say that even when I was a young person, I didn't experience so much very clear visual violence. And this is fresh in my mind because I was taking a walk the other day, and right in front of my door to get back into my apartment, there was just a massive squabble between like 4 people, and it just felt very uncomfortable, very unsafe. You're not quite sure when to step in, when not to step in. And I understand that there are so many complicated reasons for it. And me, myself, have been angry in situations, but to see it with so much frequency, it makes me really worried, really anxious. And so basura to some of the effects that we've been seeing kind of post-pandemic in our neighborhoods.
Yeah. And to expand on that, I hope that folks feel safe. The real data, the real numbers show that communities are safer today than they've ever been, like the 80s, and they are safer. But I think it's important to also not turn a blind eye. Okay, sorry, I don't want to say that because that's what's the word? It's ableist. So while maybe communities are technically, the numbers show they are safer, it doesn't mean that they're immune to the economic fallout of what we just experienced. And I hope that while we're also seeing the violence and seeing the destruction, that we're also being thoughtful about the solutions, and that I love that you mentioned like this is post-pandemic. Yeah, we are still recovering. There's the financial fallout. There's the already terrible supply of mental health resources that our communities have provided, the impossibility to get even healthcare support. So yes, there's so many complicated reasons for that. And I think we all need to work together and thoughtfully on how to approach it, and not completely say, oh, no, it's not true, it's totally safer. We are seeing it with your own eyes.
Yeah, and I also think you make a really strong point there, Brenda, because even though the statistics might show that, in fact, this is maybe one of the safer times, I think that we have an increased awareness, understanding, and kind of a desire to help and support our neighborhoods that isn't going to go away, and that it has only gotten stronger since we've experienced our own fallout from the pandemic. And so I'm not as quick to look away anymore as maybe I might have been at one time.
Yeah, maybe. And like the other thing I really like about that is sort of like, that's empowering, because it makes me think that we're all flexing our empathy muscle. And so that's the hopeful thing. So 100%. I love it. Let's revisit this. Let's get some experts in here to talk more about how we can make our community safer in a thoughtful way. I love that.
Okay, and ¿qué tal Inspiración? What's doing it for you?
Inspiración, this is a preview for all of you listeners. We're, again, recording this right after we had a fabulous event with Las Cafeteras. They are our inspiration, you all. It was such a wonderful, intimate performance, and it is a preview to their album release party, which is going to be on August 2nd at the Paramount here in East LA. We'll have the details for that in the notes of this episode. But if you all are still in time to buy those tickets, we want to encourage you to buy those tickets, because you are in for a treat. So Las Cafeteras are my inspiración.
Oh, I love that. I was so moved by that event. So beautiful. There were so many organic moments. For instance, there was one moment where somebody walked into the space, and then immediately the entire band started signing. So there was one moment where the band was singing and then they started to sign their lyrics as well, to make sure that it was inclusive for the people that were there. And that was really beautiful to see and so inspiring. And there were moments where the crowd really joined in. And so it felt like we were all in it together, kind of performing in this space together. It was really lovely.
It was so lovely, y'all. And next episode, this is a preview. Next episode, you're going to hear all of it. You're going to hear all of it.
Yeah, listen in. And you know what? I have something similar for Inspiración. So I went to this event. I think it's the second annual. It's called Chicano Elegance. It takes place on Sunset. And it's this event that essentially celebrates Chicano aesthetics, culture, music, art, all of it. And all of it was in this one space. Every single person participated by dressing up in a theme. So it's kind of like, imagine if there was a Met Gala, but Chicano themed.
I love this.
And so everyone wore whatever they thought made sense for the theme, which was death to spring. So lots of people went in like, dying flowers kind of theme, but some people came as like birth of Venus.
Wow.
I came as like the start of summer. So I wore like the most fiery color I could think of.
Y'all, I know you're listening on the podcast, but Delsy looked fire in red. That is totally
Thank
your
you.
color.
Thank you. And it was really wonderful to see everybody just feeling themselves. And it was really about like self-esteem and empowerment and feeling good. And the last thing I'll say about it is that we had a runway show there, and to see a runway be so alive and vivid in a way I've never seen a runway before. Like, runways typically have like the very similar body types, very similar people kind of coming down. This was like everybody that felt themselves that day coming down in these beautifully designed clothes. I mean, it was just moving for days.
I love it. If you all want to get some visuals of this, just go to Ocupación. What's your handle?
It's Ocupación Podcast on Instagram.
Yes, there were such great, awesome pictures, and I hope to go next year because that looks so special.
Yeah, I hope they do it next year.
Yes,
Yeah.
let's send positive energy so that they get all the support and make it happen.
Yeah, woo.
Yay!
Okay, well, that has brought us to the end. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you all.
Thank you all. Thanks
And
for tuning in.
Que se pongan... No, una vez más. I'm saying your part.
Don't forget, ponte un suéter.
Y saludos a la familia.
Ciao. Tamarindo Podcast is Brenda Gonzalez and Delsy Sandoval. We are also the show's executive producers. Jeff Ricards wrote our theme song. Sonoro Media's Karina Riveroll provides production support, and Cliva Torres edits our episodes for YouTube. The best way to support our work is to rate and review Tamarindo or share an episode with a friend. Get in touch with us at tamarindopodcast.com.